4 years old, and we were sleeping actually, to be honest. It was pretty early in the morning, and I remember seeing my mother just coming to me and saying, wake up, wake up, wake up, you need to get dressed. And I'm thinking, why would my mother wake me up this early in the morning? Why is she panicking? She was literally sweating, panicking. All I see myself is myself and my siblings taken into a room, so a room in our house, and we had to sit there. There's so many people around, so many the police were there, so many people around, and I see my mother just tearing up and crying in the room. And sorry. And then I walk up slowly to the staircase, and all I see is my father standing with a lot of people around him. They couldn't really handcuff him, so they had someone holding him from one side and holding him from the other. And it wasn't the best let's say scene I've seen my father in. So it was very overwhelming. We were quite confused as to what was happening, really. Just thinking, why are they taking my father? Apparently, we were taken to a hotel, so until they researched the whole house, they've spent the whole day basically doing their search in the house. We had really lovely memories of my family with my father as well. Up to this day, they have not returned any single item. It was it was one of the most painful memories, I'd say. Especially just seeing how my mother was at that moment. You can imagine how having, let's say, the man of the house just taken, and you're left there thinking, how am I going to provide for these kids? How am I going to look after all these 9 kids? What am I going to do? And who is going to help me from the community? The neighbors cut you off, people who you were close to would cut you off. Everyone just kind of took on that step back, just giving you that message like, I don't want to be associated with you. So it was a hard time. It was a very, very hard time. People in the neighborhood, they used to throw eggs on the windows. There was also an incident where my brother was in the living room, and so someone came through something from outside, and it shattered the window glass, and it was about to hit him, and that would have caused a lot of damage. But stuff like that, we used to get people just come and they'd throw stuff in front of the door. They'd even send letters saying, "Go, we'll pay you a ticket, like leave." It was very intimidating, having a bunch of people waiting in their car outside of your house, waiting for someone to enter or to leave the house, just so that they can come running up to you with a camera on their hand. I would be worried to bring my friends over and let's say the media just turns up. If anything happens to them, I'd feel like I've held that responsibility. So it wasn't really nice. At the end of the day, when you don't want your guests to feel comfortable. In terms of neighbours, they'd always come to us and blame us for that disturbance. So it wasn't really nice. Yeah, so after the raid, it was pretty obvious that we can't really talk about what happened to any friends. I remember even when I used to go to school, I had to be really careful what I say. The reaction wasn't very pleasant, so they once again they take that step back and they just want to say, I don't want to be associated with this. The prison was around an hour away. When we go there, the search is very, very long. Bring the dogs. I've always had this fear of dogs, and that's pretty much where it started from. Since my dad was taken, I haven't ever sat next to him. I really don't know how to describe it for you guys, from how painful it was, but being like a daddy's girl, let's say, it was really, really hard. It was really hard. You'd think that it's something that you can get over after a couple of days, months, or even 1 year. But up to this day, when I speak to my father and we finish the phone call, I still feel like I'm missing someone really important in my life. The house felt very lonely. We were all together, but it really felt lonely. The activities we used to do every day, everything just stopped, basically. It took time for us to adjust. Also for myself and my siblings to kind of just process what exactly happened. It's hard to get a child to understand why your father was taken. We missed our father, we missed his presence, we miss having someone bringing us together. We never needed an alarm clock for Fajr, alhamdulillah. He was always the The father who'd wake us up and we'd all wake up together, we would pray together. He'd always bring us together and give us like reminders, Islamic reminders, ask us about our education, checking on our progress. It's not the same. Everyone was quite shattered, to be honest. You feel like someone's missing. It's never going to be the same as when you're having both of your parents on the table, really. Never take your family for granted. Never take the comfortable life you had for granted. SubhanAllah, when I speak to some sisters or people who I know, whenever I ask them, how would you go into education? Who would support you, let's say financially, they'd always say, my father, my father, my father. They'd always refer back to their father. And SubhanAllah, a big life lesson was that your father might not always be there for you. Same thing with our mothers. The only person who will remain is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I think my older siblings also kind of felt a bit, not literally lost, they didn't really know what to do. Like they've just lost someone who had their back. So it wasn't easy. And since my mother was already going through a lot, I think that myself and my siblings, we really didn't want to add on to her burden. So we kind of had to deal with some stuff by ourselves and just to not overburden her. So it was a huge impact. So financially, mentally. Now, for a single parent, it's not easy to do that. Financially, yes, she really, really struggled. She had to start looking for ways on how she's going to work. The weekly income or the government, the income they helped us with wasn't enough to pay the bills. So financially, there was a big, big impact. Thinking of how can we help our mother? So it wasn't something as simple as go and just doing through your education, graduate and get the job. No, it was how can I help my mother? How can I help my siblings cope with whatever they're going through? I remember my brothers would be, whoever's older, they would be there to kind of pay for my for something as simple as transport, and that in itself is all that costs really added up. My biggest worry is how would he be able to look after himself? For a disabled person, it's very, very hard, especially if you don't have family there to support you. A disabled man being in prison, it's not an easy thing. You're isolated, you're away from your family, you're like a stranger, you're unable to do these everyday tasks, and no one seems to really care, to be honest. And it's very upsetting. It's very, very upsetting to see your own father kind of going through that. His ability to speak to us got restricted a lot, from being able to call every single day to being able to call once every week or every 2 weeks. And that is also restricted into a 15-minute call. So we'd have one call coming in the week, during the week once, 15 minutes to speak to the entire family. That means like 2 minutes per person. It was a very, very quick call. So he doesn't mix with other prisoners. He's not getting the right medication. My dad has diabetes, and he lost his sight completely from one of his eyes. He's a father who doesn't really complain, but subhanAllah, recently he has been mentioning things that are happening to him. It's very upsetting. Last year, my father went on a hunger strike, and because of his hunger strike, he was not able to contact his family for a good 2 or 3 months. And not hearing anything about my father I'd say that was one of the toughest moments, and not just for myself, but for my family and for him. He wasn't allowed to call anyone. He wasn't allowed to see anyone. He was in isolation. So now the only way we're able to know how he looks is when he sends us his pictures. And from his pictures, you can tell that he has lost so much weight. He is getting older. And as we know, when someone's getting older, they do become weaker physically and their health goes back. So whatever they were able to endure back then, it's not the same now. So that kind of really puts a lot of fear in my heart, I'd say, and in our hearts. We're always kind of just there, just praying to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to keep him strong until the day he comes back. I think it was a couple of years after the raid, the sister who kind of approached my mother told her about hugs. Alhamdulillah, there's been a lot of help from hugs. I can't deny that. If it wasn't Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and hugs, we would be really, really struggling with something as simple as doing shopping for the house, getting food for the house, or paying even the bills. So for my mother, just for her to allocate whatever money or help she's receiving, knowing that there's hugs there for us to help us if anything, it just means a lot to us, and we're really really grateful up to this day, alhamdulillah, for the help they gave us throughout my education, throughout my sisters and myself education, for giving us an aid and assisting us with buying food and these little things that are quite essentials. Food's quite a lot, especially in winter when the bills kind of go up because of the heaters and stuff. If we had struggles with utility bills, they always offered that for us as well. And they used to take us to visit my father. They'd have someone to drive us there, which was really nice. After my brother got his driving license, we were able to visit my dad every week. And for my brother to be able to have his car, to use it to help us with our everyday lives, and it was really really good, alhamdulillah. So it was one of the best gifts, I'd say, alhamdulillah. The key workers, they were really, like, very supportive, very understanding. They've always shown my mother that they are more than happy to listen to her, to if she has anything she's struggling with, they were always there. They were always in touch, and they'd send her a message, give her a phone call. So it was really really nice, knowing that there was that kind of support, alhamdulillah. They'd used to sponsor our education in terms of any equipment we'd need. Something as simple as buying books and pens. That was back then for a child, that's a big thing. On in Ramadan, they'd always bring us I'd say like some really nice goodies, and an Eid and a Ramadan Mubarak card. On Eid, they'd do the same thing, and it was really nice seeing that smile on my mum's face every time she received something from Hugs. They'd give my mother a call. They'd also organize kind of like sisters meet up, and it was sisters who were going through the same thing. It was really nice. We'd get together in the park or somewhere, and we'll exchange experiences, and it was a really nice place to connect with sisters who you can openly speak about your experience, not worrying about them cutting you off, let's say. I remember is when we received kind of a Eid, let's say, gift, and it was really nice. Just it kind of just felt like, even if our father's not here to be able to give us all gifts, we had Hugs, and alhamdulillah, it was really, really nice. They're like a second family to us, and they're also like beacons of light, because they remember the people who are not really remembered in the community. Hugs applies the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ when he said, "Man kana fi auni akhi, kana Allah fi auni." Whoever is there for his brother, Allah will aid them in whatever they need. Not only that, Hugs does something, as I said, different from what organizations do. A lot of charities in here, they're always looking to provide help for outside, which is really nice. But it's important to have that balance. If we're unable to help our own families, our own communities, and make a change from within, how do we expect to be able to help people out there? And it's always important to look out for charities out there that are probably not very supported, because they do a lot of work and they do face a lot of challenges, and I feel like Hugs is one of them. So inshallah, definitely support Hugs. Never belittle anything you help Hugs with, whether that's volunteering or anything. And they're really, really a lovely, lovely family to be part of. Allahumma barik.